Welcome to the Craft and Calling. I am your host, Christine Marie. I am so excited for today's conversation, y'all. We are talking with one of the sharpest minds today in bringing AI-driven operations, systems, implementation into trades businesses. So this isn't just another conversation on AI. This is someone who has actually already saved and Grant, I'll let you say exactly how much money you've saved for people, because I would love for you to, as you know, we're kind of doing the introduction here. I'd love for you to actually share what is the thing you're most proud of that you've really helped trades businesses to do?
Yeah, I would say, the figures are one thing, like the KPIs,
Mm,
the biggest thing I would say that I'm more proud of is actually just the time that I'm able to give back to these business owners. How
yeah.
many, dinners they can actually have with their families and how many soccer practice and soccer games they can actually make because of the better workflows and systems that they've installed. You know,
Love
it's
that.
yeah, it's one thing to go. I mean, maybe this is for those who are more metric driven, like going from 400,000 to 4 million is a tremendous jump, and it's super hard to do. But if you can like allocate and set those boundaries and make time for your family and have the systems behind it, that in itself is that's probably what I'm most proud of.
I love that answer because to your point, it's like, yes, you could say, yeah, we've saved $5 million or we've taken a business from 400,000 to 4 million. But really, I think that that's actually what I so appreciate about you, Grant, is that there is so much alignment of values, because that's exactly the heart of the craft and calling. It's okay, how do we hone the craft so that we can fully walk in the calling that is each one of us has something unique and it's not going to look exactly the same. There might even be seasons for how our calling adjusts, where we're more business oriented and then others we're more family oriented. But for the most part, it's usually a duality of family and business in so many ways. And so I just love that you called that out as the thing you're most proud of.
Thanks.
Grant, you have a pretty interesting background actually in terms of what even got you into the trades in the first place. And I love your story about how your dad basically built the house you guys grew up in. So can you just kind of give some backstory about how did you find yourself here today? Because we so need this conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So my dad is still like the handiest guy I think I've ever met. Like I said, he built the house that my whole family grew up in, and it's fully custom. He had never done anything like that before. He was a elevator repair guy in San Francisco, in the 80s, and came out to Colorado and just had this dream of building his own house. And so my journey though was a little bit different, less elevators, that's for sure. And basically, I got into tech. I've always been pretty techy, a little bit nerdier, if you want to call it that. But I've had this love for construction and just building things
Mhm.
since I can remember. And I've just been, incredibly blessed, incredibly grateful for the opportunities that have kind of presented themselves in terms of being able to combine these two things that I love, which is and
Yes.
things that resonate with me, workflows and automations and managing teams. And then also just from the builder being able to, help home builders and remodelers through construction, just implement better systems.
Yeah. Yeah, because man, once they do, they're free.
Yeah.
They're free to be with family. And what have you seen, when people say thank you to you? Are they realizing themselves like, I have time back? Is that something that they're really vocalizing?
They are, and, one of the cool things about it too is, I guess in this age of AI that we find is people
Mhm.
aren't really scared of their systems anymore. They're not really they're not scared of their CRMs and their computers and their, workflows. It's actually kinda drives a little bit more like curiosity. Like they view it as almost like as more of a toy, or like a tool that provides tremendous value, but it's fun. It's fun to dabble
Yes,
in it, to build things in, rather than
right.
just like data input.
I love that. So really what you're seeing is that people aren't scared, Like they're kind of bravely confronting the tech and realizing how helpful it is. When did you start seeing that shift?
Um, I would say, and it's not everybody doesn't have that same, I guess, curious mindset or drive, but generally it works once you've built out like, or once they have one kind of like aha moment, something that, like,
Mm,
for example, we implement this thing called the critical 19. It's a scoreboard that pulls in 19 KPIs for a construction business, and it auto populates every day
hmm.
in their AI tool. And so they have a real-time picture of how their business is doing across so many different departments. But it's all automated too. It just pulls
Yes.
data from like all these different sources. And so usually around the time that they've implemented that, they're like, oh, I have an idea for X. I want to build this other live thing,
Mm,
gamified scoreboard or a calculator or whatever it is. And so
yeah.
it's kind of like that little taste, I guess, or that little teaser. It's like, here's just something you can build and immediately get some value from.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, exactly. And it's like now they're able to be creative once they see it happening once. It's interesting, Grant. So from my perspective, I'll take the look under the hood for businesses from a chief marketing officer, but it's so much more holistic because it's every stage of the customer experience and also every part of the employee touch point with the customer along the way. And there are so many broken pieces along the way where it's like, man, that could be easily cleaned up with just a quick either. And this is where I'm curious for you. Is it implementing new AI tools or is it making tweaks to existing systems?
That's a great question. And like my philosophy on it is, again, in this age of AI, it's like I literally have it on the board here. There's two different ways to approach it. The first way, which often people kind of default to, is let's just plug AI in and
Mm,
have it take over 5 to 10% of that workflow. And that does provide a lot of value. But the other route is to rebuild the process with like a what some call like an AI first mentality, which
hmm.
is just let's give it the goal in mind and see what it can actually do.
Yeah. And
And
yeah, please.
I was just going to say the other part about that too is, and probably the coolest part is, you can actually have AI make iterations on its own workflow.
Hmm.
So it makes improvements, it suggests changes, iterations over time, instead
Hmm.
of having a static, like, everybody's seen it, that static document, that static SOP of here's how we do things.
Yeah.
This hasn't been changed since 1995,
Oh no.
right?
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one, giving it the destination in mind. I love that. I don't want to tell the AI how to do anything because it's smarter than all of us for the most part. It might just need context around our services and who we are and the maybe is it helpful to give context around the traditional way that we have done things?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
100%, especially if you've documented the changes to that tradition, right? And like, hey, this we realized this didn't work, so we made this change. And so then you can provide that, again, very few companies actually have that. It's kind of like buying a car and seeing, you
Mm,
know, every single time that the car had an oil change or was taken to a mechanic. It's
yeah.
awesome when you get that, but unless you're buying it from some like, Air Force vet, you're
Right.
probably not gonna get that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, amazing context if you can provide it, no doubt.
Good. And we have a mutual friend who talks about really building out first principles and really doing a good job with gathering as much context as you can and kind of storing it in a place where it's owned by you and you can always reference that context anytime. So it's almost like all of those SOPs that your business runs on, the about section, the brand messaging, your brand story, all of that. But then also, I tell me what your thoughts are here, Grant, because I know that with the context, it's not just context around your business, but it could be context of a downloaded book around this is how we want to adhere to these marketing processes or principles. It could be human psychology and kind of first principles there of how people are buying, and then the way that we need to position ourselves with the human psychology in mind, in addition to the context of our business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What some would consider that as like your second brain. So
Yeah.
it's like, what your values are as a company, but like you said, the books behind it, like how did we get to that value and what does it actually mean? What's the backing behind it? You
Mm,
or what does our messaging look like? What's our voice and style guide? How do we do our branding? Are we
yeah.
on all of our social channels or do we just select a few and why? Having all of that context, all of that knowledge in a place where it's readily accessible, not just by your team, but also by the tools that you use, is tremendously helpful for so many ways. Even just strategy, like
Mm,
here's our marketing roadmap for the next 90 days. Here's all the initiatives that we have going on. Are we on the right track to get to where we want to be?
so good. Yeah. Okay. So, Grant, with this, then, where do you encourage people to house all of that? Like, where should it live? I know some folks, they love SharePoint with Microsoft. I know others love Google Drive. But what is the best place, considering that we want this information to not just be accessed by our team, but also AI tools?
Yeah, it's hard to choose one, because there's so many options,
Okay.
and to be honest, like, I would say it's fairly it it's dependent on a few things, like,
Okay.
the tech savvy how big of a team you're striving for, how tech savvy they are, how much documentation you have. So, to
Hmm.
give you an idea, I use 2 tools. One is, Obsidian, which is just a an app essentially on this server that stores everything. So it has
Mhm.
all the files I've created in Claude, everything, from my CRM, the voice and style guide, all of the meeting recordings, everything goes there.
Mhm.
And that's it's valuable, but it's a backup.
Yeah.
Uh, and so if I ever in the future need to change to a different LLM, everything is, or a tool for that matter, everything is there. And I could just say, hey, go ahead and like access all of these files to get an understanding of me, the company, where we came from, where we're going, the challenges we solve, the whole kit and caboodle. Um, the other tool though that I recommend to everybody is a free one from Google called Notebook LM. And that one is, I think, in my personal opinion, I honestly think it's probably the most powerful AI tool on the market technically
Mhm.
today because of the potential use cases that you can have with this thing. Um, like again, you could have a notebook for every single client that you use, that
Mhm.
you work with. And so what I mean by that is you could store the client's website, the scope of work, the problems that they're experiencing,
Mhm.
transcripts from all of your meetings. Everything that there is to know about that client and their journey can be in a notebook. And then the benefit of it, it's one thing to store the data, it's another
Mhm.
to actually use it. And so you can actually ask questions. Yeah, you can
What
ask
you just said, it's one thing to have the data, much less use it.
Yeah,
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh.
And so basically, unlike ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that, Notebook is what you call like a RAG model. Um,
Mm,
and that basically means that it will only give you answers based off of the sources that you provide
yes.
it. So everything is cited, which is great. You can kind of trust everything, all the answers, as long as you're giving it the right data in the first place. But the other side of that is what you can create with it. And Notebook is always adding more to this directory, and you can create slide decks, so PowerPoint presentations. infographics, videos, podcasts, quizzes, SOPs, pretty much if you think of like a traditional hiring method or onboarding with a ramp period, that, that traditional method is kind of it's flaky, it's weird. It's you're probably using documents and data points and tutorials that are outdated.
Hmm.
What a tool like Notebook allows you to do is use the most up-to-date content that you have,
Right.
and then to create something that's like, you know, it could be in the voice or using the messaging that actually resonates with the person being trained. So
Mm.
it's, oh, I really like basketball. Okay, so we're going to train you using basketball lingo.
I love that. And this is what you just said kind of towards the end. I'm thinking about how a roofing company might use Notebook LM. The training aspect is huge. I love that. And then there's also, one of the to use roofing as an example, I'm with a client right now where I'm doing this 30-day audit looking under the hood of the business to then inform what are we going to be doing for the next 90 days after. And there's a lot of opportunity with training, and I love that opportunity of customize the training per employee, as long as you give the context to Notebook LM of what are your processes, what are your brand, who are you, et cetera, et cetera. And then it can customize it based on who they are. And I'm even thinking about personality types too, Grant. So it's like, what do you
Absolutely.
love? But then also, what's the personality type of that employee anyways? Like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram. There's a whole slew of disc analysis. There's a whole slew of
Yeah.
different personalities. And so to be able to curate and train it according to the way that they actually take in information, in addition to, we talked about this the other week, what are their motivations? And I'm wondering, to that point, do you have, or do you encourage clients to even have those kind of questions asked of the employees before they begin, so that then you can curate your content accordingly and your programs accordingly?
I think you nailed it. I think a personality test, a myriad of personality tests, if you want to take it even a step further, but
Hmm.
getting that insight into what motivates someone and what,
Yeah.
their communication style, their personality, that is just so ridiculously valuable. It is gold from an employer perspective because, again, you can actually create like an agent if you really wanted to, or just another AI bot
That's
that
a whole
kind of
new thing.
rewrites emails that actually will resonate with that person,
Yeah. Wow.
or texts or whatever it is, or just getting an understanding of, hey, here's the challenges that we're experiencing, or if it's a
Yeah.
salesperson, here's their ramp period, here's their quota, using all of the information about what we know as their motivator, what drives them, what their challenges are. How do we get them there?
Wow. And Grant, my mind's exploding because I'm thinking of this sales tool called Rilla. And I'm sure that there are many others, but Rilla records the sales conversation, and then it will using AI to identify, like, this is the peak of the conversation. We actually need to get this to this point sooner. It might take 14 minutes for most salesmen to get there. This salesman is beating all the others. He gets there in 8. Let's go ahead. And so they make data-driven, informed decisions. But here's what's curious is that if you can do it in accordance with the actual individual personality, now you tailor your pitch for every single person based on who they are, because you don't want to be fake. Like, we don't want fake, inauthentic salesmen. We want real, genuine connection. And so to use the exact same pitch, just, it's taking away the human aspect to that. Maybe this is what works, and we can learn what works across the board, but how do I uniquely get there? So how do I test myself against myself? And
Yeah.
then I even wonder, this is so cool. I was listening to a conversation the other week. The leadership was talking in a particular trades company, and it was like, this person just is struggling. What do we do? And just identifying, like, you're going to see dips and patterns of productivity, efficiency, because of someone's personal life. That's how the human being works.
Mhm.
This is partially why people love AI, because there's no emotions and they don't have a heart. But being able to even have systems in place where we can almost monitor that and get a hold of it right away and then sit down and have that one-to-one conversation. That's where AI being engaged in this level of nuance, empowers the human to human connection to be that much more efficient and meaningful if we have those guardrails in place to be like, hey, you might want to check in on Nancy. She might have had a hard weekend, but you catch that on a Monday rather than a Friday, or worse yet, you're ready to fire her because you just weren't really paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. It just saves everyone. It has the potential to save everyone so much heartache,
Mm,
and to communicate so much more clearly, which is arguably the hardest part of running any business is people
mm.
management.
We're not taught relationships, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grant, let's go back to some of the traditional systems that you like. Man, out of all the systems we're putting in place, where these three are the ones that just take the cake every time. Most trades businesses do not have these in place. Is there any commonality across your clients like that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would say, again, the first one being notebook, just having a place where you can actually store
Mm,
all of your content that you're generating. So, and I'm not talking just about social. I'm talking about like your internal documentation,
yes.
um the the internal meeting notes, from your weekly stand up or your culture call or whatever you want to call it. Having a place that you can just start storing all of that and asking questions and wanting to improve it, would be the number one. And then, of course, like this is a free website. Somebody referred it to me a long time ago, but it's called Prompt Cowboy. And that has been probably one of the biggest unlocks for how simple of an idea it is, because you can just take an idea or take the next thing that you're going to tell Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT. If you drop it in to this tool called Prompt Cowboy, it will expand on it and then ask you clarifying questions and then feed
Wow.
those answers, your answers, back into the prompt. So you're not spending time inside a chat or Claude trying to get it to know who you are and what your actual goal is. Prompt Cowboy has already done all of that legwork for you.
Okay, so I've never heard of this. I love the name, by the way. It's so funny.
Right?
I love the branding. So tell me, okay, so basically your prompt cowboy would almost be like your personal repository of knowing who you are, and then it will help you curate the prompts for new tools like Chat or Claude.
Yeah. So let's say today I wanted to create an app, just as an example. We'll say I wanted to create a calculator for a that we could put on the website for where
Mhm.
we're doing work at a roofing company, and so I want to create an estimating tool.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can just take what I just said right there. We work at a roofing company. I want to create an estimating tool for the website, throw it on Prompt Cowboy, and it will just immediately expand out that idea and ask me like,
Interesting.
what tool are you using for the website? Do you already have pricing? Who's your ideal client persona? And then we'll feed
Wonderful.
those answers back into the prompt. So I can just copy that and drop it into the chat
Mm.
and not have to repeat anything.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And are you finding that that saves, like, I've always used chat or Claude for even creating prompts. Like I have gone into chat and said, please create a prompt for me based off of what you know about me, et cetera, et cetera. But for those who are kind of starting from scratch, do you think Prompt Cowboy is like that's best for people who are starting from scratch, or even people who already have existing AI tools? Prompt Cowboy is still a really good thing to investigate.
Oh, what I would say, regardless of what stage you're at,
Good.
I'm to give you context, I've probably used it 20 times already today, just because I will have an idea, paste
Oh,
that in there, copy the result, and then throw it into Claude.
that's amazing. I really, really, really love this. Okay, I'm going to go play with it. I'm super excited, especially because I have some apps that I've been wanting to create and I just haven't, it is so much of it is predicated on the perfect prompt. So
Yeah.
I love this. And the strength of the output is so often predicated on the strength of the input, hence the need for a good prompt. Love it. Okay, good. What's the next one?
The next one is a little bit more complicated, but I think it is just it's amazing. There's no other word for it. And Claude Cowork, specifically the skills that you can build in Claude Cowork,
Yeah.
it's remarkable. You can, so to give context to this, I work with a lot of companies that use a tool called JobTread. And JobTread is basically like a big construction project management tool.
Yes.
And JobTread did a really smart thing a few weeks ago and basically created a MCP or a connector into Claude. So what that allows you to do is interface directly with your crazy amount of data that you have in JobTread, your jobs, your customers, your estimates, your projects, everything inside of Claude. So let's go back to that idea that we work at a roofing company. We're wanting to create this calculator. What I can now do is I can say, hey, go into JobTread, grab all of our historical data on our estimates, which ones have converted, and pull that in for context when we build this calculator. And so now it's just like so much smarter, and
Wow.
I don't have to do anything.
Right. That's amazing. Okay. So question here for you with the JobTread, you know, I've been thinking a lot just about how much money these software tools are costing. Do you think how far away are we from this? And based on the fact that we may not be that far away, when should companies start let's just hire an AI developer and get an AI enabled person on our team and hire Grant or his team and build out these software tools, because it's going to save us. It's $200,000 for just a CRM on an annual basis, pending the size of your business.
Yeah.
So you're recouping, maybe you're spending 100 grand at once or 50 grand at once to build this out, but then you never have to pay that again. How far away are we from that being the best and most efficient thing to do? And, or when should companies start anticipating that needs to be done?
That's a phenomenal question. I would say the best thing you can do is actually you could ask AI that very same question. The other side of that coin is like, take a look at the amount of data that you're actually using, right? Because if we're going back to Notebook LM, and you know, one real quick question is like, do you have a brand and style guide? Do you have the way that you like messaging framed out that has your value prop, that has your company values in it? If you don't, then you should not probably be hiring somebody to come in and start developing things on your behalf. Because you at least need a foundation before you start building the skyscraper, right?
So one, are you even capturing data to begin with? Two, are you using the data? Because again, like we were talking about earlier, it's not enough to just store it. Are you using it? And maybe that's actually a really good, it's kind of like a boundary in some ways, you know, milestones, boundaries. It's kind of maybe even a little bit of both, of like, I'm not going to allow myself to spend this amount of money until I use what I have first, because otherwise it's just the shiny object syndrome. And why would I do anything different in the future if I don't change my behavior now?
One couldn't have said it better myself. Nailed it.
Cool. Okay, good. Because I mean, honestly, I think that there's just so much opportunity to recoup all that money. But to your point, here's what I find most often when I get involved with trades businesses is that they're too busy to be data driven. That's the excuse. And sometimes they don't have the data, but they usually have more than they realize.
Oh yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So Grant, what have I not asked you that these trades businesses need more than anything right now in this world of AI? What have I not asked you that they need?
I think the biggest thing that they probably need is kind of a direction. You know, like you said, we live in this world where there's so much opportunity, but there's also so much shiny toy syndrome in terms of like, oh, this new feature got released, or this, should I move to Claude from chat? Should I go to Gemini? Or, you know,
Oh my
and
God.
so it's frankly impossible to keep up with it,
Yeah.
even for somebody like me who just lives and breathes it. Um,
Yeah.
and the biggest thing you can do though is, in the same way that you probably or should have a marketing strategy, you should also have an AI strategy in terms of,
Mm.
how do we roll this out? How do we get full team adoption, not just the owner dabbling with it? Doing a diagnostic on the company in terms of where are gaps, both operationally, and just strategically, and then allowing AI to help you build that roadmap of, here's where we can actually start to use it. Here's the training guides. You know, um, here's the biggest levers that we can actually start to pull with these tools.
I just love, I wrote that down. I went on mute because my typing is so loud. I love that. I love that you said, in addition to having a marketing strategy, ops strategy, sales strategy, we need to have an AI strategy. And I just, man, it's a complete new way of thinking. It really is. I watched an episode, the very first episode of, what is it, 1883?
Oh
And
yeah,
like
yeah,
the Wild Wild West, and they're gonna go up to Oregon from Texas, and that's where we are right now. We
yep,
are on the digital frontier, and man, we have to think, we have to go out west. That's there's no choice. We will not survive if we do not plan for it, strategize for it, and start building that way. And to your point on full team adoption, I had an honest conversation with some folks on my team where it's like, we are going to get, I said every single person who is not willing to be AI enabled is going to get left behind. And it was just like a gentle introduction of, we all need to be on the same page here. Otherwise, changes will have to be made.
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm really grateful, Grant. Thank you so much. Any last words before we wrap up here? Because this is just such an important conversation.
Yeah, I would say, it, regardless of the tool that you choose, whether or that you're maybe already using, Chat, Claude, Gemini, don't be scared of it, because
Mhm.
it's coming a lot faster than you know, and it's it's actually a support tool. It
Yeah.
can, as long as you have a vision of where you want to take your company, as long as you have goals, this tool can help you get there, as long as
Mm,
you're telling it what those goals are.
yeah. So good. And Grant, you have your 6-week flagship program. You've got the full org set up with AI enablement in JobTread. You've got an AI enablement 12-week course, a second brain. We were just talking about that earlier. What's the best step for people to kind of follow you, get to know you, get in
Yeah,
contact?
I appreciate that. If you just go on the website, Go First Consulting, we have a ton of little tools that can help you actually determine that roadmap for you.
Mm,
So with or without me, that tool will basically help you figure out what the best route is,
mhm.
for getting started with incorporating AI into your workflows.
Good. Nice. I'm super excited, Grant. For those who are watching, they don't own a trades business, but they realize AI is going to start taking jobs. Where should they start just for education and potential employment opportunities?
Oh, I would absolutely pick up Notebook. Um,
Mm,
you have access to it if you have a Gmail or a Google account. Could be a free Google account.
great. It's
And
amazing.
yeah, yeah, just start dabbling with it. A lot of people, probably another little unlock is, there have been people who are much smarter than me who have developed Chrome extensions that will actually incorporate into Notebook. And so what you can
Mm,
do is you can actually go on the people you follow on YouTube, and we'll just say Tony Robbins for an example, or knowing, right? You can go on, Christine Marie's YouTube and actually, grab one or many of her from her YouTube library and add it to a notebook and start to learn from that and grab the assets and incorporate it into whatever your goal is, or, whatever it
Mhm.
is that you're working on. And so that allows you to just start dabbling with Notebook and actually make things super useful from the experts that you are already following.
So good. It's interesting. I had someone tell me that they were doing that from my show, and because they have a coaching business, and they were like, basically, like, I'm taking your content and distilling it down and coaching accordingly. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Nothing's going to be proprietary ever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So learn as much as you can. I love it. Grant, thank you so much. GoFirstConsulting.com is where people can learn about you. So grateful for you, my friend. This is just the most important work I think that anyone can be doing right now.
I
So
appreciate that. Thanks so much for having me on, Christine. This was fun.
yes, I appreciate it. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next